What's happening, church? Welcome to another episode of Deep Dive Live. I do want to say welcome and shalom to everyone as soon as I can figure out where my mouse is at. I'm a pro. I'm a pro. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 24, verse 36. We will be working out of the New King James Version of the Bible. And I will be using the blueletterbible.org web-based service. It is free. They do have a app for your phone or your mobile device, and they're free too. So, or you can use version Logos, eSword, take your pick. There's a ton of them out there. But again, New King James is going to be our focus for today, primarily, as always. That's, always the caveat. There's more to be addressed, I'm sure. But before we get going, we are going to go to the Lord in prayer. And if you do have a prayer request, something you can always throw up in the comment chat on live and then comments down below in the rebroadcast. If it is something a little bit more personal in nature, maybe something a little bit more detailed, you don't just want everybody in the world knowing, you can send that to me directly at tgikquestions@gmail.com, and that's for my eyes only kind of thing. So, all right, as always, before we get started, let's go ahead and go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you and praise you for the day that you've given us. Thank you for the opportunity to come forward and study your word once again. And Lord, I pray as we go through this lesson today that you'd open up our hearts and our minds to your will and your way when it comes to understanding these scriptures. Help us to apply them to our lives, to grow stronger in you, to be a better light to those around about us, because we know that the time is short and we need to get people in. The flood's coming. And Lord, I thank you and praise you for all that you've given. Thank you for all your blessings. Before we ask all these things, in the name of your Son, Yeshua, we pray. Amen. All right, gang, let's bounce on over here. And so this section by the New King James author is titled No One Knows the Day or Hour, just literally like pulling it straight out of the beginning. And something I just thought about, that's actually how, in general, that's how the books in the Torah, that's how they got their name, is actually like the first word or the first phrase in the book. And so you read the like Genesis is Bereshit because that's how you say in the beginning. So it's kind of how that works. But this would basically kind of be the same thing. So don't know why I brought that up. Just kind of like an odd little factoid, I guess. But Matthew 24:36 says, "But of that day, the day when all of these things are going to transpire, as we talked about on yesterday's episode, which is, the end of times, basically. This is after the abomination of desolation. For the disciples, this happened in 70 AD. And this is many believe that this is also Yeshua foreshadowing his coming as the ruling and reigning Messiah, which is what the Jewish people have been looking for since Moses, pretty much. Well, not effectively, but kind of. But 24:36. Let's not get off onto something. Little tangents. Watch the time constantly, Brian. But of that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Now, this is unusual because this in you is the Nestle Allen version of the Bible, which takes by my understanding, which takes the oldest texts, which may not necessarily be the most accurate, but they are the oldest. I know that sounds confusing, but hang with us. You'll hear that again, and we'll point it out. But they actually have something that the New King James does not have. Now, let's take a quick look here. I want to see real quick in our Bibles, but my Father only. No, that's bizarre. The angels in heaven, or the Son Himself. Okay, so the New Living. That's unusual, man. This one has been really getting some. Well, what has really turned out to be some really insightful translations. NIV actually has it. ESV has it. Wow, that's amazing. How about the NASB? Yep, NASB has it. Net Bible. No, Net Bible does not have it. And that's the New English translation. I hear that Net Bible referenced quite a bit when you have a textual criticism being brought up as just another resource. I'm not sure what its origin is, but I would say it's because of how it was put together. Um, and the Young's Literal does not have it, and the reason why the Young's Literal doesn't have it is because it actually is not in the Textus Receptus, which is the document that the King James and primarily the document that New King James is based on. And so any translation based on that is not going you're not going to see it because it wasn't there. It's not there in the Greek. But this is going to be our focal point here. 5 minutes in, dang, dude. Matthew 20 should be like 2 minutes in. I should be already getting it to the point. Matthew 24:37 says, "But as the days of Noah was added, but as the days of Noah, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days before the flood, this is how they were living their life. Excuse me. They were like I did before I started doing this video. Clearly, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark, and did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So also will the coming of the Son of Man be." So what we have here is a picture of this time of when the Father says when he is coming to gather up his children. And again, one that we're not addressing when that time is. This is just, we're just reading the words on the page. You can read whatever theology into it you'd like, but we just want to address the words on the page. But, and it's saying here that this time, this time of the return, that no one knows when that's going to be, that it's not broadcast in the throne room, but the days will be as it was in the days of Noah. So, what was life like in the days of Noah? Well, um, basically, everyone did what was right in their own eyes, to wrap it up, and they held no regard for God's instruction. That instruction was handed down somehow. We know that knowledge of God predates Moses. Not predates, but knowledge of God predates Abraham, because Job, the book of Job, which is all about God and man's interaction with God, was written about the time of Abraham. So it was way before anything else happened. People already knew who God was, but what happened was the establishing the covenant was what God did through Moses. But this time of Noah, God was still speaking to people in a different way that he doesn't address. But in those days, Noah and his family were the only righteous people. Now there's a little bit of a caveat to the distinction of how Noah is described, and it quite literally can be taken to mean that he is effectively biologically clean, because there is some thought that there's a possibility of don't freak out when I say this, that there is a possibility of a commingling between angels and humans. So, and as a way to pervert the bloodline and as a way to interrupt the coming of the Messiah, because the lamb that is sacrificed has to be spotless, and that includes genetically. It could not be tainted with sin, because if it were, it would not be a viable sacrifice. So that's why Jesus can't have a father. He can only have a mother, is because the sin transfers to the father. So, excuse me. Have I mentioned that I work in a dusty warehouse? I wear a desk mask, but yeah, you could scrape my tongue out right now. Um, But so what we're looking at is a time. Basically, you were looking at a time in history or in the future that all of humanity has forsaken the idea of following God's instruction, and I mean in any form. These people weren't they didn't have a different days of worship. These aren't This isn't a Sabbath versus Sunday, argument. This is a They do not believe that Jehovah lives. They are worshiping their own gods. They're worshiping gods that they have made with their own hands, and they've created their own idols. They've created their own idols. And those idols can be an ideology, they can be a person, they can be yourself, which it seems like, to be honest with you, the primary idol that these days seems to rest in the mirror of most people. I'm going to have to clip that out. That was good. That wasn't me. So, anyhow, moving on. So these are bad times. These are times. These are godless times. And when you see godless times, you see wickedness. And when I say wickedness, I mean you see mistreatment at every level. Now I know, historically, people who say they are Christians have done some major freaking BS. They've done some heinous, terrible, terrible things. Those people they were not speaking for God. Okay? You don't speak for God. He speaks for himself. If he wants you to know something, he will impress that upon you. He doesn't need me to do it. He doesn't need me to tell you how to live. There's nowhere where the things that have been perpetrated at the hands of Constantinian religion do not follow Scripture, New Testament or Old, in any way, shape, or form. It flatly says that it's its own thing. In its own encyclopedia, it says that it is separate from Christianity because it does not follow the tenets of the Bible. So it's a bit unfair, but completely understandable when people say that, look at all the terrible things that have been done in the name of God. They have been done in the name of God. They were not under the authority of God. They made up their authority. They gave themselves the authority. Isn't that convenient? Isn't it convenient when that happens, when leadership gives himself authority? That would literally be like the president going, you know what? I think we're a dictatorship now. Bam, done. It would be no different because that's exactly what happens. And when you have that, then you have corruption because it's power, influence, and all those things. And you're always going to get bad crap. Well, in this time frame, the church did not exist, and these were people. They basically they worshipped, at their home. This is, everything was the family's belief system, and that's how. And they worshipped according to what they felt was the thing to do. And throughout this society, to be quite honest with you, what was generally done was the idea of a free will offering. And so, what would happen is when a family, these were primarily agrarian lifestyle, and so when a harvest would come in, as a way to say thank you to their God, is they would build a fire and they would put part of said harvest on said fire. And that was what they did because that was their way of giving it back to the gods because obviously the gods can't come down. And so they would send it up to the gods. That's the picture that we have when it comes to that kind of sacrifice thing. What you see different in what eventually comes forward with Moses is the majority of the sacrifices, especially free will. Those are consumed things. Those are things that you take part of it and you give, but it's a way to sustain the priesthood. And there's it wasn't um, it didn't guarantee future favor. It was just a way to say thank you. That's why it's free will offering. There were other things that now not in biblical sense, but many cultures did fertility rites and all those things. You don't have that in the Bible specifically for the very reason. that we are not to be like the nations, and we are not to worship God in the manner that other nations worship their God, which is why there's restrictions on diet and worship days and what you do with your friends and family members. I mean, all that stuff, you know. So it would be different. So it would be peculiar people, which I think is in the Bible like 15, 17 times. So Old and New Testament. That's both ends of the book. So anyway, I'm sorry. For as in the days of Noah, before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered in the ark. This is not a bad thing. They were eating and drinking like you do every day. We always assume drinking means getting drunk. If it meant getting drunk, it would have said getting drunk. They were living their life. They were eating and drinking, and they were marrying. They were, and they were giving in marriage. When you are a father and you have a daughter, you give your daughter in marriage. There's a husband and a wife. That's what they're doing. They were married. There was a guy to marry, and there was someone who had been given in marriage. Who gives this woman to be betrothed? Her mother and I. We still do that. That's in our wedding vows now. That's what we're looking at here. So let's not go. Sometimes it's easy to go crazy on some of these things because it's not necessarily modern English. But just take a second, look at what it's saying, check out the resources and the references, and make sure you're clear. Because unfortunately, what often happens is when you get things like this that are easily explained, and matter of fact, let's see. Whoops, I don't want to do that. I did want to do that, but I want to do that. Okay, so here NLT, let's just do this one. In those days before the flood, the people were enjoying banquets and parties and weddings right up until the time that Noah entered into his boat. That's what they did every day. That was a normal thing. Was these banquets and parties? They were part of religious festivals, pagan as well as biblical. Now, this time of the year, again, God's moedim have not, God's appointed times have not been established yet, but you get the idea. Those things, that idea existed before Mount Sinai. That should not surprise you because all of these false religions were established by someone who stood in the throne room. I mean, Doug Hamp, Master of Disguise, Michael Rood's Shabbat Night Live, 3 episodes, 4 hours, 3 episodes, less than 3 hours, and it will absolutely change your life. So I'll try to link that in the description below before as soon as they let me. But anyway, back to the point. So they're living their life, and they did not know that the flood was going to come and take them all away. They were taken by surprise. They were taken by surprise. They were just doing what they'd always done. Well, gosh, nothing's ever changed. In one place in the Bible, it says, as it was from the beginning, it is till this day. It's nothing has changed. Everything continues on as it always has. And because of that, they're like, well, nothing's ever going to change in the future. It'll always be this way. And so nothing is ever bad's going to happen to us. We're never going to have to pay for what we have done. Well, there's a very popular phrase. Karma is well, anyway, be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. You do not do things that you do not reap the results of that action. Good or bad, you reap what you sow. So, don't know how I got off on that one. Running out of time. Good grief. I'm never going to get through this. I'm just kidding. I'm eventually going to get through it if it takes like another 20 lessons. Matthew 24:40. Now, this can be a little confusing. This can be taken many ways, and I'm not going to plant my flag on anything. And when it comes to this, I would read these, which I'm going to read first, and then we'll talk about what I'm reading, because you actually could not be watching, you could be listening. So, Then 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding in the mill, one will be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. And okay, and Nestle Allen reads that for what day the Lord is coming, and that basically the same meaning in that one. It's what time that the Lord is coming. But know this: if the master of the but know this, this is again, take note that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, the thief, what is it? Abomination of desolation. Okay, this is what we're actually talking about. The destruction starts in the temple. When does this POS show up? Well, he's the thief. Okay, and he's giving you a warning here. He's saying, look, if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Therefore, you also be ready. The Son of Man is coming at an hour that you do not expect, or that you expect not. That's what I was trying to read and get my light in the way. But anyway, so we're seeing this picture here of, you know, the master of the house. This is the, and again, I've heard this used as the church, which I'm sure you could look at it that way. There's a lot of different ways to look at these passages. The idea is they are a warning. Here is the thing that, in my humble but accurate opinion, I think we should probably be the most focused on, is that this event is going to happen like a thief in the night, and you have to be ready. Therefore, because it's like a thief in the night, that you need to be ready. You need to be prepared. You need to be prepared. If you're preparing against someone coming in to take something from you, you're going to have a certain types of things around you. I don't want to got to be careful what words you say. You're going to be ready. You're not going to sit there with a bag of wet noodles. You're going to be ready to rock and roll if you know that somebody is coming to take your stuff. Okay, even if it's calling the cops and letting them roll with their stuff, you're going to be ready. And that's what he's saying to the disciples. He's saying, I'm saying to you that my return is like a thief in the night, and you better be ready every day. You always have to be ready. And what he's saying is like we see before when we talk about, oh wait, no, that's in the next section. Let's yeah, okay, yeah, we'll finish it. Yeah, because this ties in like needfully ties into the next passage. It says, therefore be ye ready also, for the Son of Man is coming in an hour that you expect not. And so he gives us a picture here of what this is going to look like. And he goes, okay, so who then, this is Matthew 24:45, it says, who then is a faithful and wise servant? Who is a faithful, isn't that what we would want to be? Does anyone want to be a bad employee? Does anybody want to be unreliable? Does anybody, I don't think so. I don't know if there's many people like, striving to reach that. Maybe there are, I don't know. But who then is a faithful and wise servant, which we have been commanded to be, whom his master made ruler over his household? Well, this guy is so faithful, and he's smart, street smart. He's good with what has been entrusted to him, and he's so good and trustworthy that the boss made him ruler over his household. To do what? To make sure that my family is fed. That's what this is saying here. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his master made ruler over his household, over the master's household, to give them, who's them? Them is the household. To give the household food in due season. He, the master, is trusting you with his family. That's a ruler of the household. It's not a ruler of his finances. It's not a ruler of his, fields. It's a ruler of his family. It's a ruler of his household. That's the faithful and wise servant who is in that position. Blessed is that servant whom his master, when he comes back from doing whatever he was doing, will find so doing. He's going to find him doing these things. He's going to find him faithful and wise in giving food to the family in due season. He said, assuredly, I say to you that he will make him what? He will make him ruler over all his goods. Oh, major promotion. That's a major now you're into the dude's pocket. Now you're affecting how the master makes his money. It's because now you're ruler over all of his goods. And not just his household. His household is his family, is his bloodline, far more important than goods. But you got to feed those people, and you got to have income to do that. And that is what he did. He made him ruler over everything. This is, I would say, similar to Joseph being second only to Pharaoh, that he only did not sit on the throne. This would be like a prime minister, I guess you would call it. I'm not really sure. I'm barely good at Americans politics because it's BS. Oh, I mean, I'm sorry. I didn't comment on politics. Don't flag me. Verse 24:48. Got to be careful what you say. But if that evil servant, here we go. This is how you don't do it. But if that evil servant says in his heart, my master is delaying his coming. My master is delaying. My master's, hey, where you at, dude? I don't think you're coming back. I'm not sure you are ever going to come back. And so what does he do? He begins to beat his fellow servants. These are people that were hired to do the same job he was hired to do. These are fellow servants. And to eat and drink with the drunkards. Okay? The drunkard is someone who eats and drinks all day. That's a drunkard. That's someone who does not produce work. This is not even a functioning alcoholic. This is someone who lives in the bottom of a bottle. And that's what this servant is doing. The master of that servant will come on a day when he is not looking for him, because he's not paying attention, because he's, living the life of a drunkard. And at that hour that he is not aware of, and he will cut him in two and appoint his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. All right, so we're about out of time. So I think that's pretty clear. That's all bad. But one thing I do want to point out here is in this passage, is this phrase, cut him in two, could and probably should. Cutting him asunder is actually makes it a more of a possible translation. This is, he will cut the servant in pieces. He would cut him in pieces, cut him in pieces, cut him in two, cut him in pieces, cut him in two. He will punish him. There we go. Cut him asunder, cut him off. There we go. He will cut him off. Okay, so here's the reason why I do these kind of things. Because I just find this super freaking curious. One thing that is a true statement, and this is super gross, is that is how Hebrews used to kill people. They would saw you in half. Boy. All right, so bad. And not just them, but that is one of the ways that they killed people historically. Don't see that in Bible a lot, because obviously it's not what God said to do. God's idea of capital punishment is death by stoning. So that's how he does it, or he kills you himself. Just one or the other. But this, to cut him in two, to cut him asunder, and it says that you're going to cut him in half, which will kill him. But then you're going to appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. But there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. They're still alive. They're still alive. See, this is outside of the city gates. The portion of the hypocrites, they live outside the city. That's where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. So to cut him in two, to cut him asunder, also means the idea of almost excommunicating someone, of putting them out. And you cut him off from the body. So, again, definitely could be taken both ways, but considering this person is alive after this first event, that you're going to cut him in two, and then he's going to be alive where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth, because it does not say that he's going to be cast into outer darkness. This is separation. And so, again, I wouldn't plant my flag on anything, especially this kind of stuff. But it's just curious, it's just curious. Is that all right? That's all right if things are just curious. All right, folks, that is going to wrap us up for today. Tomorrow we are going to be starting on chapter 25. There's only 28 in the book of Matthew. So what is going to happen is once I'm done with this, we are going to switch up to short content. I'm going to try to keep like 10-minute shorts and stuff. But very focused. It will still be as deep as I can do it in 10 minutes. So that's my goal. And I'm thinking of a pretty cool freaking name for it. I'm the only person that's going to enjoy it, but as you all know, I just do this for my own entertainment anyway. So, excuse me while I gas again. Better out than in. Shrek. Anybody? No? Dogs? Shrek? Nope. No? I thought for a minute Jack was going to throw his hand up there, but since he doesn't have any, he didn't. All right. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to throw them up in the chat on the live stream or in the comments down below on the rebroadcast. If this is content that you enjoy, please like, share, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. It helps the ministry grow, and it helps get us in front of more faces. So, as always, before we head out, please read and pray every day. It will absolutely change your life. I promise you it will. If you spend the time it takes you to fix your coffee in the morning, reading scripture while it's brewing, you'd be surprised what that'll do for your day. Start small. No one starts a 40-day fast on a 40-day fast. All right, you don't start there. Your first day of running isn't a marathon. All right, guys. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. And I will see you guys tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Bye.